Hi guys! So today I thought since summer is right around the corner I could show you some of my favorite books in my book collection and share a beer with you guys and talk about what I love about my books and what they're about, and maybe you can get some good ideas for this summer. Okay, so let's get right into it. Now, a lot of my collection of my favorite books is missing because the books that I really love I tend to give away or let people borrow, and then I never get them back. But I'll start with some of the ones that I do have. Let's see. The first book is called I Love You, Beth Cooper by Larry Doyle. And this guy actually used to write for The Simpsons, and I have this in two copies. Actually, I have it in a hardcover like this one and a soft cover. And they actually made a movie out of this book a couple years ago with Hayden Panettiere playing Beth Cooper, and I really didn't like it as much as I liked the book. This is just a really funny book. I was laughing out loud the whole time, and it's just really witty and funny. It's about, you know, being a teenager and graduating and trying to ask out that super popular girl. So it's really a great book. It's actually one of the books that got me back into enjoying reading for fun. Once I graduated from college, I was an English major, so I was so burned out on all of the required reading that I just never spent time reading for fun. And I heard this was really funny, and I picked it up and I read it at the beach one summer. And it really was. This is a great beach read. I finished this in like 2 or 3 days. It's a great book. I would not suggest seeing the movie. One of my favorite books is called I Know This Much Is True. It's by Wally Lamb, and my boss at my job actually introduced me to this book. He just kind of handed it to me one day. I said I needed a really thick book. I needed to just immerse myself for a couple weeks in a book, and he handed me this, and not an easy book to get through. It's a wonderful, epic kind of book. It's about a man who has a twin brother, and the twin brother has some mental issues, and majority of the book is just a lot of flashback between him and his brother, and a lot, you know, he has to come back to his hometown, and it's funny in some parts and very it's very heart-wrenching in a lot of others. It's just a perfect book if you want to feel it all. It is 897 pages long. So this is about as long as Anna Karenina, which is another book I read in high school, which I really didn't enjoy as much as a high schooler as I did as an adult, but this is a wonderful book. And going right off of Wally Lamb, once I read I Know This Much Is True, I knew I had to read another one of his books, and this one is called She's Come Undone, and it's also by Wally Lamb, and it's in Oprah's book club. Not sure if this one was a book club. I think the reason this one was an Oprah's book club marked book is because it deals with a woman, and she's very young, and she has a lot of difficult self-image issues, and she's very depressed, but also, like his other book, very dark moments, but also very funny moments. And he really captures the mind of a woman really well in this book. It's I really enjoyed this book, actually. I read this one very quickly, and this one is 465 pages. So it's about half the size of I Know This Much Is True. Great book. So when I was in college as an English major, I took an education course on young adult literature, and one of my favorite authors that I ran into was John Green. And I read every book by John Green, but Looking for Alaska is probably my favorite. It's a Prince, I think that's what it is. I think that's the Prince Award. Yeah, it's the Prince Award right there. And that's a very prestigious award for young adult books. And young adult usually means, I think, between the ages of 12 and 18. There's a ton of wonderful young adult literature out there that I still read, and I'm 26, so it's still very relatable, and there's a lot of really wonderful young adult writers now. It's not all Judy Blume. But this book is great. It's about a boy who goes to a boarding school, and he meets a girl named Alaska, and she kind of changes his life and helps him figure out, you know, what he wants out of life. And it's been a long time since I've read this, actually. I read it a year ago, and I'm going to come back to this in a second. Another book I really enjoyed by John Green was Paper Towns. I'm trying to remember what all of these were about. It's been so long since I read them. Oh, okay. So this one is about a boy who lives in a town, and he meets this. This is such a. Maybe I should just read the. Quentin Jacobson has spent a lifetime loving the magnificently adventurous Margot Roth Spiegelman from afar. So when she cracks open a window and climbs into his life, dressed like a ninja and summoning him for an ingenious campaign of revenge, he follows. After their all-nighter ends and a new day breaks, Q arrives at school to discover that Margot, always an enigma, has now become a mystery, but Q soon learns that there are clues, and they're for him. Urged down a disconnected path, the closer he gets, the less Q sees the girl he thought he knew. I really like this one. He has a friend in this book, and there's this part where they go over his friend's house, and he's a black guy, and his parents collect all of these black Santas. Like, they just are riddled throughout the house. Like, they just have black Santas, like, hanging on the wall, and they have, like, black Santa figurines. And I remember that part specifically because when I was in school reading this YA literature for my YA class, we went to see John Green do a promo for this book, and he read that paragraph about it. And it was, everyone was laughing. He's a really genuinely funny guy. And he has a very large following, and they call themselves nerd fighters. I don't know. It's a little teeny bobby for me, but he's a wonderful writer, and he has a great respect for some of the greats that, some of my favorites like Fitzgerald and Didion, but he's a very good writer. And this is the most recent one I read by him. It's called The Fault in Our Stars, and I read this maybe like 6 months ago. And it's about a girl who's dying of cancer, and she meets a boy who also is, she meets him in a cancer support group, and they're teenagers, of course, and they end up falling in love, and I can't tell you the rest about it, but I did not like this one that much. I read this in a night. I read this within like, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours. It does engross you, but I don't think I really like this one as much as his others. I feel like this one was a bit cliche, but anyway, like I was, oh, this is, look, you can see John Green. This is what John Green looks like. It's very nerdy and very cool, I think. But like I was saying, John Green has a group of followers called Nerd Fighters, and sometimes, you know, very rarely if you buy John Green books in the bookstore, you'll find a Nerd Fighter note that somebody has written and stuffed in there, or if you're in the library and you get a John Green book, somebody who's already read it has left a note in there. And 6 months ago I did find, let's see if I can find, it's in here somewhere. I did find one in The Fault in Our Stars. Where is it? There it is. It was just sitting in there, and it says DFTBA, and that means don't forget to be awesome. And since this was the first book that I read by John, I found a very beautiful note in it. I was actually flying to Texas when I was finishing this up, and I found the note on one of the last pages, and it's it's very sentimental to me. See, I can't show you that, but this is my plane ticket. It has my name on it. And this is the note that I found. It's written on a napkin. And I don't know if you can read that, but it says, "Dear reader, I hope you are different. I hope you are strange. I hope you will one day find your own great perhaps, that you can feel great sadness and know what it is like to live when you find it." And if you've read Looking for Alaska, you know what the great perhaps is. But if not, you'll just have to read it. And so I keep this one very dear to my heart, because this book and that note helped me through a rougher time in my life. So anyway, get into John Green if you're looking for some pretty profound literature for young adults. It's very good. Okay. And like I said, a lot of my collection isn't here. I'm a very big fan of Vonnegut and Palahniuk. Hunter S. Thompson is one of my favorite writers. Kind of a big fan of weird literature like that. Makes me feel different, I don't know. Apparently it's really popular to like those readers now, I don't know. Or writers, rather. This is a very cool book. I didn't actually finish this book. My brother lent it to me because he actually read this for a class in college where he did a presentation on it. He actually left one of his note cards from his presentation in there. It's very interesting though. If I were my brother right now, I would be suggesting that you read this first, which I have read cover to cover, The Zombie Survival Guide by Max Brooks. This is such a fun read. This is... it seems ridiculous at first when you start reading it, but if you're a big fan of, you know, the possibility of a zombie apocalypse, and it tells you tons of things like what kind of armor is the best armor, which weapon is the best kind of weapon, what kind of climate you should be staying in, how to stay fit through exercise and lifting. It's very fun. I thought it was ridiculous, but then I couldn't put it down. So, like I said, if my brother was telling you about this, he would say, read this first, and then read this, and point out all of the things they're doing wrong in this book. Apparently, this is just a bunch of people, you know, surviving the apocalypse, and they do a lot of things wrong compared to the survival guide, but he had a great time doing the presentation with it. I'll probably finish this someday, but I don't know, I couldn't get into it. But a lot of people love it, so. Oh, hang on. Okay. I'll just share this one really quick. Not even because I really like it. I read a little bit of the Beat Generation in school at a couple classes with Ginsberg and Kerouac, and I started reading On the Road because I'd never read it. I mostly read the shorter stories that they had, like Ginsberg's Howl, a beautiful poem, amazing. I really could not get into this, and I don't know if it's... I don't remember Kerouac's stream of consciousness being this streamy, if you understand what I mean. You know, he writes down every little thought that's going on in his head. It's just very like boom, boom, boom. But I think I got a very strange version. And this one says it's the original scroll. The legendary first draft, rougher, wilder, and racier than the 1957 edition. So it seems to me that this is literally what he knocked out on his typewriter, because he uses his own name, which is not the case I've found. And yeah, it's very, he talks about the main characters like Ginsberg and Kerouac using their own names, so it's hard to get into. I mean, I think I might be a little old for this, the whole vagabond, travel the country kind of thing, but I got about a third of the way through and I kind of gave up on it, and I think maybe I'm going to try to find the 1957 version. I was just attracted to this because it was supposed to be rougher, wilder, and racier. But I actually ended up watching the movie, the one with Kristen Stewart, however you say her name, and upon finishing the movie, I kind of was glad that I didn't finish this. It was very anticlimactic, I feel like. I don't know if I'll finish this or not, but... And on the back, they show Kerouac at his typewriter, and then a picture of the original writing. So that's what makes me think that that's what this is. It's just literally page for page everything he wrote, completely unedited. Like, there are 3 paragraph long sentences in this, so... but yeah, I mean, I like the Beat Generation writers. It's just not something I'm crazy about, so, okay. Alright. This is not exactly a novel, it's a play. Oh, you can't even see. It's called Angels in America by Tony Kushner. And I read this in one of my college courses where we were doing mostly plays like Waiting for Godot and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and all that kind of stuff. And I really, really enjoyed this. I did my, my final project for this on Angels in America. And it's about the AIDS epidemic in the 80s. And a ton of characters. It's kind of like a much more profound and classier Rent, if that makes any sense. This is a beautiful, beautiful play, and if you don't feel like reading it, which I suggest you do, it's very easy. You can get through it in a couple days. But if you don't feel like reading the play, HBO did a really great 2-part series of this whole book. They did a really good job, actually. I don't know, this kind of moved me. I remember just finishing this, and then I decided, you know, for part of my project I would watch the HBO series, and I was just riveted. It's like 4 hours for each part, so it's technically like an 8-hour movie, and I just sat there and watched all of it in one sitting, and I was sitting there drinking a beer just like stone-faced, just tears streaming down my face. It's a really wonderful portrayal about the hurt that was going on in that time and the stigma against it as well. So if you're looking for a good play to read, read that. I don't actually have a copy of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, but that is a really fun play to read. It's very, very dark in this sense, especially if you're married, like I am. I don't know if they did a movie with Elizabeth Taylor way back in the day, which I also saw, which they also did a great job with, but the play is just heartbreaking, and it has, I mean, it has its funny moments, but it's, if you want to feel like ripped apart when you read a play, that's a good one for it. So, okay. I have a lot of books that got turned into movies, and it's, what's funny is I read all of these books before they got turned into movies. So, this is one of my favorite love stories. It's called One Day by David Nichols, and it's a really, really sweet story about a man and a woman who meet in college, and they become very close friends, you know, the kind of close friends that end up sleeping together one night and, you know, forgetting it and moving on with their friendship, but you can see deep down that they really love each other, but they just don't take it that next step further. And I think the reason I loved this book so much is because I had a similar relationship with a guy growing up, and just to see, you know, the way they banter back and forth, and you know, how much they really care about each other, but they give each other so much shit. It's sweet. I finished this one down in North Carolina on Topsail Island, and I was sitting on my beach balcony, and I read the last few pages, and I had to go in the bathroom and just cry for like 30 minutes, because it does have a rather sad ending, but very hopeful ending. Don't want to give anything away. Read this if you love love stories. This is such a good one. And I love the names of the boy and the girl. It's Dexter and Emma. I love both those names. And they made a movie of this as well, with, what is her name? Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway plays Emma, and that really cute British guy from, I am brain dead today. He was the guy from 21, that poker movie, and he was also the guy from Across the Universe, the whole Beatles musical. And they both actually do a really good job of portraying the characters. I would say read the book, then go see the movie. I actually really enjoyed the movie in this one, but definitely read the book first. Okay. I read this years ago and I actually don't remember much of what it's about. It's just one of those fun books that this is definitely a good beach book. I have a ton of just really fun reads. You know, they're not particularly profound or anything, but they make you laugh. And the reason I picked this one up is because Larry Doyle suggested it, the guy who wrote I Love You, Beth Cooper, and he said this book will make you laugh and cry in public, and it really does. It's about a girl in the 70s, and her parents throw, like, they're very rich, and they throw, like, sex parties at their pool, and she's 14 years old, and she's growing up and learning, you know, about sex and cigarettes and booze, and it's just very witty and very funny, because everybody can relate to being that age and discovering things for the first time. I love that it's set in the 70s too, because they talk about all the fashions that are going on, and it's just very funny. So anyway, that is The Summer of Naked Swim Parties by Jessica Anya Blau, and I would definitely suggest this one for a beach read. It's just fun. Jeez, I'm starting to realize how many books I have that got turned into movies. This is another one I read before it became a movie. I think it was a New York Times bestseller. Usually I pick up very popular books. This is called It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Vizzini. And this is a great book. What's funny is it's about a kid in his teens, and it's not necessarily a young adult book. I really enjoyed this as an adult, and it's about a teenager who's very bogged down with stress, trying to get into a good college, and he's very depressed. He's having a lot of emotional issues, and he almost tries to kill himself one night by jumping off of a bridge. And instead of doing that, he gets down and he rides to the hospital and asks to be checked in so he doesn't do anything to himself. And they end up sending him to a psych ward with other patients, and it's not exactly what he asked for, and he ends up spending a couple weeks in there, and he meets all these people in the ward who just change his life and make him realize, you know, that some things are worth living for. And he also meets a girl, of course, there's romance in there. But this was made into a movie a couple years ago, and Zach Galifianakis plays one of, what's the boy's name? Craig. Plays one of Craig's friends that he meets in the mental ward. And he's a much older guy, so the movie for this wasn't bad. It wasn't great. The book was fantastic, but isn't that always the way? So, another one I would suggest. This actually would be a good beach read. It's very emotional, but it's very funny, and you know, you just smile through the whole thing because you kind of travel on his journey with him. So it's a great book. Okay. This is just a book that I ended up buying for school. You can see, used. Always buy used. And there's selections from Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson. It's part of one of those very large anthologies, like the Norton anthologies. Ones that are much bigger, they're like this thick. But I actually held on to this one because I find myself returning to a ton of these poems. I'm a huge fan of Dickinson, but I'm an even bigger fan of Walt Whitman, and his short stories are fantastic. I just think they're both very beautiful writers, and sometimes when I need some inspiration and I need to get away from, you know, reading all of this modern literature, you know, where everything's supposed to be quippy and witty, I just want to hear something beautiful, and so I'll turn to this. And it's just filled with tons of stuff from both of them. I want to say a majority of their stuff are popular stuff, I guess. But I love this book. And this is probably one of my favorite books I got from school, used. 8 Modern Essayists. I actually got this my senior year during one of my favorite classes, and it was a class on essays. And a lot of people don't think about essays when it comes to writers. But Virginia Woolf was an essayist, and George Orwell was an essayist. E.B. White, Joan Didion, Alice Walker, they all wrote amazing, amazing essays. And I think what I love about essays so much is that they're so damn short, you know, but they evoke so much. They pull it together. They tell a whole story and a whole feeling in like 4 pages. It's amazing. I love them, and they're so, especially Joan Didion is probably my favorite essayist. She really gets it. I don't know what it is. I've always liked her writing style. She's very straightforward. It's very, I don't know how to describe it, but I will just spend a night picking one of the authors in here and just reading all their essays because they're so good. And I think that's it. That's my last book. Let me look at my bookcase and see if there's... Give me a second. I'll just show you 2 more. I'll just show you 2 more YA books real quick. I have such a collection of YA books, or young adult books, because of that class. I had to read a different book every week, so I must have like, I don't know, like 15 to 20 books about. So, this is funny. This is another one that got made into a movie. It's called Fat Kid Rules the World. And this was a Prinze winner as well. I knocked this out maybe 3 or 4 hours. This is a fun book. And it has such a good message to it. It's about this kid who's incredibly overweight. He feels very invisible in his school, and his father is this very staunch military kind of character. And this kid meets this boy in school who's kind of a dropout, kind of a loser, but he loves playing music. And he wants to start a band, and he asks Fat Kid if he wants to be a drummer. And the kid agrees because he's so happy to have a friend, and he starts learning how to play drums, but he's really bad. And his friend is kind of a junkie a little bit, and they sign up to do a gig within a week, and this kid can't even play drums, but it's a whole adventure, and it speaks a lot about friendship and how we treat each other based on appearances. This was just really fun. And if you don't feel like reading it, because it is such a short read, you could probably finish it very fast. You can go on Netflix, and this movie is on Netflix, and the movie was very, very good. So I wish they would have made a movie out of this book, but this is called Audrey Waite. And I know it looks really stupid on the cover, but this is a really fun book. It's about this girl, and she's in high school, and her boyfriend, who's a little older than her, ends up becoming famous, and he writes a song about her called Audrey Waite, and she becomes this superstar overnight because this song is so popular. And it's just a whole like adventure of her trying to stay out of the spotlight and also enjoying the spotlight and trying to take advantage of it. And this had me laughing a lot. I really like this book. I just really got into young adult books from that class because they're just fun. They're fun, brainless reads. They really are. You don't have to think much for them. They're just a good thing to escape to. So, anyway, that is my book collection, and hopefully you guys got some cool ideas for some summer reads. Hopefully you just enjoyed sitting there and listening. I'm not sure how ASMR this is, but I'm willing to take some requests. I was thinking about doing a cranial nerve exam or rummaging through my makeup bag next time. So if you guys want to leave some comments in the comment section and let me know if you have any requests, like a roleplay, then let me know. And I will see you all another time. Thanks.